Barak the Blessed. That was what his mother called him. She was dead now, long in the ground, killed by the disease that had torn the life out of her. She was therefore not around to be a guiding light in Barak's formative years, leaving him with a father who cursed God and who loved only the alcohol that quickly owned him. Although Barak was never physically abused, he was left with a gaping void in his life, craving the affection that every young man needs. It was perhaps unfortunate that he chose to fill that void by choosing the more extreme fringes his religion offered. He was young but naive, an ideal recruit for those who wished to push an agenda. It was thus easy for him to become radicalized, his father not caring that his son was spending more and more time away from home. After all, Barak was old enough that it was time for him to live his life, so that the father could wallow in his own self-pity. It was this radicalization that eventually saw Barak standing outside the Dome of the Rock with 3 fellow believers. They were each armed with Uzi machine pistols, as well as having more than enough grenades to do the job in the backpacks they carried. The Dome of the Rock is Islam's 3rd holiest site after Mecca and Medina. It is also important to Judaism, as the space occupied by the Dome of the Rock is believed by many to be the future site of the 3rd Temple of Solomon. It is said that the construction of the 3rd Temple will mark the era when the Jewish Messiah walks upon the earth. There had been consistent pressure from more radical branches of Judaism to rebuild the 3rd Temple. The problem was discerning where it should be built. Some religious scholars believed that the exact site would be determined when the Messiah returns. The 3rd Temple must be in exactly the same spot as the previous temples that were destroyed long ago. When religions begin to compete in beliefs and ideology, there will always be some who will take things too far. That was what Barak accepted, preached to him by his radical Orthodox teachers. It is not difficult to brainwash a young mind to believe what you want them to believe if you know what you are doing. As people were finding all across the globe, it is so easy to warp the ideas of the world's religions, especially if those doing the warping hid their black demonic eyes and their blacker hearts. It is a misguided mind that thinks only the harsher sects of Islam are capable of spawning violent ideology. Barak had never killed before, and he was nervous. He felt it was the right thing to do, and yet his gut was churning, rebelling against the act he was about to perpetrate. No doubt the 3 others with him felt the same, but Barak didn't want to be the one to show weakness first. If one of his brothers had suddenly stopped and expressed doubts about what was about to happen, there was a good chance that many lives could have been spared. But the 4 men were driven by ideology and peer pressure. The mosque, so sacred to millions of Muslims, was off limits to those outside the religion, but not today. Today it was to be the scene of a massacre, with over 2,000 people in attendance for prayer. Barak was the first to walk towards the mosque, pulling his Uzi from its concealment. He would also be the first of the 4 to kill, his bullets ripping through the helpless Muslim worshippers. His brothers would follow, grenades flung into the sacred space. Nobody should be attacked so ruthlessly, but Barak did it anyway. By the end of the massacre, Barak was also the last of the 4 to die, killed outside the mosque by police who sped to the scene. This wasn't what Israel wanted. The Middle East was already on fire, and this was the last thing that was needed. Deep in the pit, the fallen archangels gave a little chuckle at how easy mankind was to trick and set against each other. Another seal holding firm the gates of hell just got that little weaker. Even if the Antichrist failed in what was coming, the fallen knew that humanity would end themselves sooner or later. Still, there was far too much fun in deliberately destroying a thing to pass up the opportunity. Humanity had no chance in a war against hell if they were too busy fighting amongst themselves.